the judge and jury here. Do Republicans make a strong enough argument in total to win their case?
I think they do, particularly because if you look at the witnesses that the Democrats brought up, their testimony was hearsay, speculation, and opinions differing with how the president handled foreign policy with Ukraine. A difference in opinion on foreign policy is not an impeachable offense.
Right.
Well, you had 4 people up there who don't like Donald Trump, 3 of whom said, for all manner of reasons, he ought to be impeached, and 1 of whom said, look, I don't like the guy, but this is a really flimsy record, and you are engaging in a rush to judgment. I don't think that these hearings, either yesterday or any of the hearings conducted by Adam Schiff, have changed anybody's mind one way or the other.
I think this plan is anything but moderate. It shows how far left the progressive Elizabeth Warrens and Bernie Sanders have dragged the center of the Democratic Party. The plan that the vice president put out, it raises dramatically taxes on 8 existing taxes, adds 2 new taxes to the mix. And so I think these types of tax increases, a 10% increase in revenue, it would dramatically change the economy, halting the economic progress that we're currently seeing.
One of the big things at Heritage we focus on, and we've written a comprehensive immigration agenda for potential reforms, is what to do with the big population of illegal aliens in this country, many of whom are visa overstays. So there's also an issue of what are we doing to make sure we decide who's coming in and why we want them coming in, and then what to do and how to remove them. Right now, ICE has a meager budget and ability to get folks out who have violated our rules.
Well, there's really no telling on when an end will come to the U.S.-China conflict, and even this next potential deal is only a phase 1, right? And the administration hasn't yet admitted to a tariff rollback included in this phase 1 deal. So from the American consumer perspective, we're not really looking at much relief anytime in the near future, whether there's a phase 1 deal or not.
And I think that President Trump deserves a good deal of credit, I think, for the pressure that he has applied on NATO members to step up to the plate. And President Trump has been forceful, very outspoken in doing so. And as a result, I think he's accomplished some real change and progress, I think, within NATO.
And look, he's the first president we've actually seen this happen. You've had plenty of Republicans and Democrats come and go, and they've all said others need to do more. But finally, others are doing more. But the president's right. We got to keep the pressure on. I mean, you have countries like Germany and France who are still paying less than 2% of their country's GDP, which is what NATO calls for, on defense for NATO. And I think if you're Germany and France and you look at places like Russia, you might want to up that spending.
Look, Europe and Britain in particular are paying the butcher's bill for some really bad policy. It wasn't really until 2010 that Britain even started to take this seriously. They had their strategy was protect, and essentially they were going to go out and engage with the community to prevent this. And they were engaging with the most radical elements of the British Islamic society to help them deal with the issue of terrorism. We're going to continue to support the Afghan people and the Afghan military so they can defend themselves. And we're going to continue to operate in the country to fight terrorism. With those prerequisites in place, I think if the Taliban wants to come to to the table, we can reach a kind of agreement which assures the people of Afghanistan don't have to worry about being overrun by the Taliban again. The question is, will the Taliban do that? And to be honest with you, the only people going to answer that question are the Taliban.
So hopefully this de-escalates a bit, but some of the protesters have really come out in press reporting as wanting not just his resignation, but the entire governmental establishment, a reduction of corruption, better representation of their interests, and really this pushback against the increase of Iranian influences within the Iraqi government.
I have to say, firstly, that this is the right move by the president, supporting the pro-democracy legislation that has gone through the House and the Senate. It is vital that the United States stands up to China in support of those in Hong Kong who are fighting for their own freedom. Certainly, of course, the government of Beijing is deeply unhappy about this development, but U.S. leadership matters.
Well, the thing is, you can't bring on a recession by wishful thinking, and you can't bring on an economic boom by wishful thinking. The fact is, we have economic growth over the past year and a half that is about 1 full percentage point higher than at the tail end of the Barack Obama administration. We've seen jobs growth continue to expand. We see people earning more. And yes, we have had a slowdown in that rate of growth. And we want to see robust 3 and 4% economic growth a year. But the fact is we still have the economy expanding, and they can cheer a recession all they want, but they're not going to succeed.
So the broader Second Amendment implications at play have to do with where the right to keep and bear arms extends outside of the home. Sort of what protections do gun owners have outside of the home? Because if you recall, in Heller and McDonald, the two big cases from the last 10 years, in those cases, the Supreme Court determined, there is an individual right to keep and bear arms inside the home, particularly for handguns. But it didn't expand that ruling beyond that. And so the big issue now is, what protections do gun owners have outside of the home, whether through concealed carry, whether through the transportation of firearms. And so those are the main issues being decided in this case.
The unprofessionalism that was shown by these folks and potentially unethical behavior and potentially unlawful behavior has destroyed the reputation of the FBI to the point where people don't trust it anymore to do an objective investigation. And I don't think Chris Wray has done a very good job of trying to police that. And I do think there ought to be serious consideration given to possible criminal prosecutions if there's evidence for that there. That's the only way the FBI can restore its reputation.